Welcome again on this fascinating journey of research. In this video, we'll discuss about conceptualizing in research. So from where research ideas come from problem formulation to request for proposal to feasibility, review of literature, and finally concept mapping. So all this we are going to cover in this video and the subsequent one. From here to here, so from conceptualizing research to till literature review we will be covering in this video, and concept mapping will discuss in the subsequent one. So let's get started. Well begun is half done. There is no better proverb than this. Well begun is half done in context of research. So how well you are going to how well your research journey would be, it depends on how well you have started, right? So if given the kind of inputs which is required at the early phase of research can make a lot of huge differences to the outcome. Welcome to the conceptualizing in research. One of the most difficult aspect, let me stress upon, one of the most difficult aspect and yet one of the least discussed one is the conceptualizing in research. Simply stating, it is about how to develop the idea for research project in the first place. So what should I research? Yes, you could say suggest certain field, certain discipline, but what exactly I have to research upon? What is my research topic? How should I arrive at my research topic? This is something which every researcher is interested in. And the most common advice which is offered to him or her is read enough and wait for the magic to happen. This is something which as an academician I have experienced in my life, and I am sure if you are also an academician we will also suggest the same. But try understanding that, and I am not saying that this is wrong, entirely wrong, because ultimately review of literature is what? It is about extensive reading itself. So, but let me tell you, researchers and academicians can do a much better job than simply sending students to read enough and wait for the magic to happen. They could turn some of their expertise in developing methods that students can use to help them formulate ideas for research. One such way is concept mapping. So there are different ways like brainstorming, okay, you have concept mapping, right, interviews. So there are many methods, and it is always better that if academicians start getting into this domain of giving students some kind of tools, right? And I would be covering this in our next video extensively about concept mapping, and you yourself will find it that how useful this concept mapping is as a structured approach to idea generation and how to proceed in a research project. We'll discuss about it. So let's talk about where research topics come from. So there are 4 different areas from where research topics can come from. The first one being experience of practical problems in a given field. Let's take an example from nursing staff. Nursing staff, if you follow their routine, they are involved in lot of lifting or supporting or helping out the patients, which create lot of stress, right? Maybe their shoulders, or they are paining, or maybe they could have ailments, back pain, etc. This is quite common because of the kind of routine they are subjected to, the kind of work they do. So this is something which is coming from the plane of experience. There is some practical problem which is to be addressed. There is some sales people are facing a lot of, they have to do a lot of calls, so there is a kind of job fatigue attached to it, with it, a lot of rejections, a lot of no, or the kind of communication which happens when you make a cold call and the other person simply gives very cold experience, please do not call me, or something like that. So try understanding, this is one breeding ground of research topic. You start getting into the lives of people, professionals, and begin with your practical problems. The second one is reviewing literature, and yes, you will come across different ideas, and you will also see that how ideas are built or discussed in the progression or the development of a given field. So maybe the kind of ideas which you are proposing are there to extend the review of the literature, so as to contribute it in a positive way, or it could refine previous research. So maybe you are finding some kind of gaps and you are trying to address those gaps, right? So suppose that you come across a topic which is very diverse, lot of definitions, there is no standard definition. So you could say, I would try to maybe propose one definition that would retain that should reflect most of the ideas described in the literature. So this would be one way. Or you will try to unify certain different kinds of theories are there, so you want to unify. So that is something to be done. You are trying to approach that way. Third is your request for proposal or RFPs, which are very, very important. Simply stating, there are agencies or people, organization who are doing a credible job in identifying the research areas, and the best part is that they are calling for research academicians to actually begin these proposals, to come up with. So actually they are supplying you with the practical problems or concerns in a given field, and anticipating a solution from the researcher's end. So this is one such great way to formulate a research problem and start working the way forward, right? And most of the time request for proposal also includes funding also, so that helps the researcher to move in a hassle-free manner, right? So towards to begin his research journey in the right way. The last but not the least is researchers' own ideas or researchers' own input, which is actually an outcome of BCEE, that is the background from where the researcher is coming from, the culture which he or she is exposed to, the kind of education and experience one carries. So sometimes it manifests out of one's own ideas, or researcher, he might not have the above three, but somehow from his own set of belief, knowledge, ideas, background, culture, he or she picks up a topic and then moves ahead. Post idea generation phase is the phase of feasibility study. In one line, it is actually about the trade-off between rigor and practicality. Scientific rigor, maintaining scientific rigor or high standards in research is one of the key requirements towards doing a good research work. So when we say academic rigor or rigor in research, it requires to do a lot of things which researcher may find it difficult, or maybe too broad or too specific or too demanding at times. Not everything could be maintained, but he in no way he could dilute those things. So there would always be something to do with rigor and practicality. What is possible, what should be, and what it is. Okay, so how it should be and how it is. So that is the difference. So researcher always has to find out a way that how to address problems in practical terms. So let's say you cannot be 100% sure about covering all the aspects, but at least the method you are deploying has some validity to it, has some credibility to it. It is trying to overcome some of the limitations of the previous researchers, etc. The next one is resource and circumstances. No researcher is bestowed with unlimited resources and all situations or circumstances favorable to him or her. We always have to deal with limited number of resources, limited amount of resources, and different circumstances, sometimes favorable and sometimes unfavorable too. So within that we have to chart out our plan to conduct the research study. So that is why sampling method, how should we approach, where should finding out a leverage so that we could get the maximum by putting in minimum effort. So that could be working smart researcher. How long the research and other areas, other things to be discussed under feasibility include the time it will take to accomplish the research goals, to complete the research project. Are there any ethical constraint which requires consideration? So have we assessed all the ethical issues which could come in the way of research? Have we acquired the much needed cooperation from our participants? Because if participants are not willing or unwilling, or they are half-heartedly participating in your research project, it is going to spoil the whole outcome of the research project. It will have a very adverse effect on the quality of your research. And finally, the degree to which cost will be manageable. So research involves cost, so one has to work out the way where within your research budget you are able to do a credible job. Next we discuss about the literature review or review of literature. One of the questions to understand is, should we seek exact work or related work? Many a times a student keep coming to me and asking that, sir, should I have carried out a review of literature, nobody has done it, something very very similar to me, and the literature offers actually no solution to the kind of problem which I am facing, for which my answer is okay, you just have to broaden your horizon. You please refer more studies, and instead of focusing on just exact study, one should develop the habit of referring to related work. So we should seek related work in a given field. That would be a better way to deal with the literature. The review of literature, why it is conducted? It is conducted to keep the current research project within a conceptual or theoretical construct. So people have already traveled a path, they have offered some kind of direction. So if you are coming here, so where is your work falling in? Is it somewhere, is it fitting somewhere in that line of thinking? So that is to do with review of literature. One should refer to the most credible journals in your research areas, because credible journals, in order to publish in credible journals, one has to ensure a lot of maintain lot of rigor, right? Again, going back to rigor and validity and reliability conditions. So credible journals are normally double-blinded review, so even the reviewers do not have any idea whose work they are reviewing, so as to minimize biasness in evaluating a research work. So find out the credible journals, find out the related studies, and do the review of literature early in your research process, so you could begin your journey from whether it is your aim is to refine or your aim is to extend the line of thinking. So review helps anticipating common problems in your research context. So other researchers also have done it before, and you could refer to their review of literature as well, and you could make some kind of meaningful comparison that there are certain problems which are common, which are identified or discussed or rediscussed by different researchers. So those are the common problems, or they might have discussed about different kind of context under which the study has taken place. So you could vary the context, and you could see that how well the current finding is fitting with the previous findings, or how is it different from the previous findings. So you could use your prior experiences of the others to avoid common traps and pitfalls. So very rightly, riding on the shoulders of giant. So something to do which is actually the outcome of review of literature. So in our next video we'll cover concept mapping in details. Till then, take care of yourself and keep watching. Thank you.